Today we have Nona Renfro. I'm so excited about this conversation. Nona has led global talent acquisition at companies like Amazon, Meta, Google, PayPal. Amazing experience. I'm thrilled to have this conversation today.
For me, it's really working on helping the C-suite just really understand that AI is a great tool, but it's not a silver bullet.
When we think about implementing technology into a recruiting team, we have to break down the entire candidate journey. We break down the funnel. We break down the process. We break down the user journeys for the recruiters, but also the entire recruiting team.
AI is wonderful, but when you're hiring humans, you still have to have the human as part of the process. And that human piece, I think, will always be there.
Hey, RecOps friends, are you still losing hours every week to interview scheduling chaos? What if you could eliminate the back and forth, cut scheduling time by 90%, and actually get those recruiter hours back on the hiring desk where they belong? That's exactly why teams are turning to Rooster, the native interview scheduling platform built inside Workday Recruiting that finally makes interview logistics fast, seamless, and predictable. With Rooster, you connect directly to your Workday system. No extra tools, no disconnected workflows, and instantly let candidates self-schedule with one-click booking links. It handles time zone and language differences automatically, sends branded confirmations and reminders via SMS, email, or WhatsApp, and keeps interviewers, coordinators, and candidates in sync without constant manual follow-ups. And it's not just about speed. Rooster helps you see the true cost of scheduling inefficiencies with its TAS metric, so ops teams can track and improve the parts of the process that slow you down the most. Whether your team hires locally, globally, or somewhere in between, Rooster cuts errors, saves 10+ recruiter hours per week, and creates a candidate experience that reflects the quality of your brand. If you're ready to stop chasing calendars and start hiring with confidence, visit rooster.us and schedule a demo today. Your recruiters will thank you. Now, on with the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Today we have Nona Renfro. I'm so excited about this conversation. Nona has led global talent acquisition at companies like Amazon, Meta, Google, PayPal. Amazing experience. I'm thrilled to have this conversation today. Nona, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Where are you based? What are you working on?
I'm currently based in Dallas, Texas. Been here for a few years. I have lived a few places during my career. So San Jose, Dublin, London, Kuala Lumpur, but been in Dallas for a while. So it's good. All good stuff.
Shout out to the Dallas talent acquisition crew. I feel like I got a bunch of friends in Dallas.
Schedules and family schedules and all those things. But yeah, great Dallas network. Shout out to the Dallas TA peeps. There's a lot of us and some really good, smart people here.
So it is December. December's a great month to hire. I think a lot of people think that it's not. You have unique challenges when it comes to end of year comp and bonus structures once you triangulate those payouts from large enterprise tech companies and FANG, all those companies you've worked at. It can be fun to hire end of year. What has it been like historically for you in recruiting in the month of December?
Yeah, I think it depends on the vertical. For Amazon, PayPal, this is peak season hiring, making sure you have lots of people coming in the door to take care of the customers that are buying online, having things shipped out. So peak season starts in August, super busy. Other companies, like Meta, Google Fiber, it's just business as usual. Things can slow down, though, as end of year budgets if you're on the standard fiscal year. Micron, where I was just recently, is in high growth mode for the manufacturing side. Like corporate functions are slow, but it's all foot on the gas for everything else.
Right on. What are you working on these days? What excites you about recruiting?
Yeah, for me, it's really working on helping the C-suite just really understand that AI is a great tool, but it's not a silver bullet. For the last year, the C-suite has just been pushing AI, and it's great. There's so many great things that we can do with it, but it's also educating them because they see many times TA, they think TA is low-hanging fruit. AI will solve all the TA problems, and yet for the most part, we're always behind in tools anyway. And we need better tools and then to add AI to those great tools. And they just think bringing AI in will solve all the talent problems, which it doesn't. It doesn't solve interviewer scheduling is a nightmare, making interviewers available. Like it doesn't solve those problems. So I have really been working very hard to educate on where AI can add value, where it's more of a marathon. If we're going to use AI in a certain space, it's going to take us a while to get there. And then just the overall, they want to do it, they're pushing, but where's the budget?
Yeah, it's interesting because there's so much talk about AI. When we think about implementing technology into a recruiting team, we have to break down the entire candidate journey. We break down the funnel, we break down the process, we break down the user journeys for the recruiters, but also the entire recruiting team, the RCs,
Yeah.
leadership. What does the reporting structure look like? And then also our stakeholders. What is the hiring manager experience like using our technology? This is their like second or third priority tech within their tech stack. So there are a lot of things to break down when we think about the AI in recruiting. And when you recruit, sometimes in larger organizations, implementations can be slow. There are certain considerations. There's no one size fits all, and there is no one true end-to-end agentic AI recruiting experience.
Yes.
Yet.
And I don't know if there ever will be. I think that's the question, because AI is wonderful, but when you're hiring humans, you still have to have the human as part of the process. And that human piece, I think, will always be there. Can there be big improvements on top of funnel and where AI can sit there and add value? Yes. There are some tools out there, a shameless plug for Bling Cloud that I'm just joined the board on. They're doing top of funnel assessments. So I can reduce recruiter waste by using the right tools at top of funnel by 40%. So that waste for the recruiters having to look at 1,000 applicants can go down to, oh, now I'm only looking at the top 20. Give them 40% of their time back to spend time with those 20. But I think the top of funnel is where TA will most benefit, and I could be wrong. I don't see AI taking over anything past the interview stage, because we have to have people, like, we're dealing with humans, human capital, and they want humans involved.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially for operating under the assumption that you and I are talking about, like tech and tech hiring, roles that are processed for software development company. Yes, I'm with you. LLMs are great at words. That means LLMs can do research faster than I can. So when we talk about shortlisting or having a hit list on certain companies, doing that research about company stages, double checking timelines. Hey, if Nona worked at X company during this block of years, what was the product growth and financial story of that company at that time? You can triangulate the impact. If you're working in a startup, you can even get to the assumption that, whoa, actually, Nona was one of 2 people, or Nona was the only person with this job title at that time. Therefore, we can attribute success to them. That has nothing to do with if you as a candidate were presenting that information. That's all happening on the back end.
That's right.
And I'm excited about that, to be honest.
Yeah, because I think those things are so helpful for recruiters to be able to have that system telling them, and I call it like gold, silver, bronze. Who are the gold, silver, bronze candidates that I should be looking at that meet this criteria or that are sitting here? Where are they? Like, an intelligent AI is to go out instead of having to post a rec and get 8,000 applicants. Someone had posted yesterday on LinkedIn about that. Is the intelligent AI can find those folks ahead of time. You can still post a job, but you already are starting to get who are the potentials that if they haven't applied, we can reach out to.
100%. I'm excited about this because it solves a real problem. Recruiters, it's important to remember, asked for the current problem we have at the top of funnel. Remember when we said to the vendors, like, hey, make it easier for folks to apply? They did that. And now we're injecting more friction at the top of the funnel as inbound application conversion rates have plummeted to basis point conversion rates. Historical conversion rates of an inbound application are like 1% to 3%. Now, when we have a magnitude of 10 on the volume of applications, now we're in basis point territory. And that is just a waste of operational expense to process that many inbound applications.
Yeah. And they don't. I think the key is then they don't do it. So, and I won't name the company, but I went into a role, did a quick audit of the ATS, and we had over 200,000 applicants sitting at top of funnel who had never been looked at. And they had been sitting there from anywhere from just currently applied to 2 years, like sitting 200,000, had a CRM, an AI CRM, I won't name the vendor, that should have been helping us get through those and saying, hey, you've got 200,000 people who've never been looked at. And so that goes to my point where the recruiters ask for all this, but now they don't have the time to go through those. So they don't do it. Like they have this open flow into the funnel, but then they don't slow down or aren't able to slow down in many cases to go through it.
Yeah, and it's true. And when you have recruiters who are hustlers, who are sourcers, who take pride in the craft of recruiting and bringing a job to market and finding the talent that has the skills and delivering them quickly to a hiring manager's calendar and making great week over week submits, those folks are going to optimize their day around behaviors that allow them to be successful. And they know that processing a magnitude of 10 inbound applications may not get them the yield they need. So what do? They don't post recs. They bypass the ATS. This is real. This is like what I am hearing from both companies and recruiters. And when we think about creating great inbound pipelines and strong employer brands, you do want to still have that capture so that you can have qualified candidates in your ATS, in your database, because once you've got that data, you can enrich it over time, but they may not be the best qualified candidate for a specific role today. But what if you're hiring that role 18, 24, 36 months down the road? You can go back and see, hey, there's some great candidates in your database right now.
Yeah. Like, how do you keep that interview ready pipeline? Because some of them will fall out because they take other jobs. But I think that's where the right AI CRM system can then go ahead build those portfolios of these candidates, especially like for companies like at Amazon where we hired thousands of SD, software development engineers. So you have these fungible talent pools that if the CRM AI system is mining your ATS properly, the recruiters should always have gold, silver, bronze in this portfolio that the AI has identified. So when we're hiring these roles, all the time, here's people that you can consider for 4 months from now. Here's people for now. Here's people for 6 months. But we don't have that today. Recruiters have to manually create either evergreen recs and house those candidates, or, some candidates aren't ever looked at because they just don't have the time to do it. And the CRMs hasn't been, now I know they're stepping up their game now, the CRM companies hasn't been building that just to automatically do it for us.
I have a bit of a half-baked hot take. I don't want your opinion because you've worked at some of the largest companies in tech, household names, FANG, etc. When we think about who owns data, all of these companies have our data. I'm talking Amazon, Facebook, Google. So theoretically, if they already have our data and they have access to all of the world's data and engineering resources, there should be zero reliance on an external agency, because oftentimes what governs a agency payout is the timestamp on when that resume or CV hits the ATS. And if the ATS already has that candidate's CV or resume, the agency isn't getting paid.
Yeah, no, it's so true. Like I clapped because it's something I have been cheering about for a while. Like I've been in these great companies where we have organizations that can look at the data for a product, even like for a chip or your Oculus, or down to the millisecond. Like they look at data, like how are we manufacturing it, engineering, like you get down to the millisecond, and yet we struggle with managing the people data in the system that would be so easy for a data engineer to come in and build. And I think for me, I push on the leaders to say, let's take our internal brains and fix this problem, because you can do it for our products and people are a product. So why not? And because it's sad. Like just recently, we were looking to hire a couple of like very senior chemical engineers. An agency had presented one of them like a year ago. The person just applied, but we ended up having to pay the agency because they were the first one that introduced us to the candidate. And if our system would have told us that, then we would have known right up front. And that candidate actually, we found out, had applied before the agency had presented them, but we didn't see that data in our system. So the agency ended up getting paid.
Yep. This is crazy. This is one of the largest problems to solve. You are a talent acquisition leader. Like, this is how you deliver value to the business. Run the numbers.
Yes.
Amazon hires maybe 15, maybe 20,000 software engineers per year.
Per year. Yeah. Sometimes more.
You take 1 to 5% of those roles are agency placements. Could be more. Or even staffing. They hire staffing firms. Why are you hiring staffing firm and paying a staffing firm a premium? This is a magnitude of like tens of millions of dollars saved per year. And I'm so excited for whoever in talent acquisition can solve this. Like, I think about our industry, and there's one person in particular who comes to mind. His name is John Vlastelica, and he created the bar raiser.
I know John. Yeah, that's
Shout out to John. And we say bar raiser all the time. Like, John left his mark on this industry. It's, I think, the person
I was
who
a bar raiser at Amazon.
This.
Like, I went through the whole process, became a bar, and it's awesome. But I think, like, I'm always like, if I was an engineer, I would go write some code and make this happen. Like, I wish I was an engineer because I know what the need is. And so it's like, if we can convince the CIOs, the CEOs to just invest even a month's worth of time of their brightest engineers, we could solve this problem internally for companies. And we treat the people hiring, like a product.
Okay. I'm a glorified idiot, but we're going to do this napkin math right now live on the show. 15,000 roles. What is 1% of 15,000 roles? 150 roles. What is the average comp of a software engineer? We'll just call it K. I know it's higher, but let's just call it 200K.
Yeah, that would just be like base. So not fully loaded, but yeah.
200K times 150 roles is 30 million.
Yeah.
So that's the total top line. So if we take a 20% bill rate across 200, 20% there is K. So if 150 roles times K, so it's 30 million top line, 6 million in revenue saved per year. Somebody go solve that problem. Director of talent acquisition, VP of talent acquisition at Fang, go solve that problem. We just did it for you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so true. And I think so many times it sits as, well, this is an HR issue. So you guys go solve the problem. But really, it's a technology issue. It's a data issue. So if we pull the right data, share it, the business is always, oh, wow, I didn't realize that. And so just that alone, and for the big companies, especially startups, but startups too, they have such smart technical talent. They could do it too, depending on the size of the company. But all that talent exists that could do this with HR in partnership and save your math, save the millions you just calculated in your math model.
And this is where the technology will advance.
Yep.
Recruiting operations, aka RecOps, is a term that has come into our vernacular recently, the last couple of years, taken on a lot of popularity. We've now got a RecOps conference. We've got vendors talking about RecOps, building for RecOps practitioners in our space. Have it a moment. Love it. RecOps includes data, technology, process, reporting, all of that. And that's how we got connected through a post by the homie Jeremy Lyons, who runs RecOps Collective. But we came in touch because of a post of quality of hire. So before we dive in on quality of hire, do you want to opine a little bit on RecOps and what you're seeing and why it matters and why people are talking about it?
Yeah. RecOps is my heart. I tell people all the time, it's the backbone of TA. And if you don't have a good RecOps function, your TA body will not move. And because it enables our recruiters, it enables us to be the experts. It gives us data, it provides training to the recruiters, to the business, the interviewers, the business partners. I always tell my team, so Ben Aber, I hired him at Google Fiber when I was there to be my TA ops leader because we didn't have one at the time. And I said, I have to have a TA ops function because my recruiters cannot thrive without it. They can't do the reporting and the analytics, and they're taking very disjointed data to the business. The business doesn't trust the data because it's just a mismatch of everything. So I brought Ben in to really be that backbone. So he keeps the arms and legs and the head moving of the recruiter body because they have all that support. And without it, the business doesn't trust us. They don't trust the data. There's no single source of truth because you're getting data from everywhere. HR partners pull it, TA pulls it, the business can pull it. So it's like, where does that end? So RecOps, I'm so passionate about because it makes us successful. It lifts the recruiters up. And for the biggest part, we earn business trust. We suddenly turn from delivering coffee to the business, as in a hire, like a Starbucks barista. Here's your coffee. Now we're done. Thank you. To they see us as a true consultant and expert in guiding them on labor and market intelligence.
Love it. We've talked about talent intelligence, and now these roles are referred to as research. I've seen some like great sourcers that get into talent intelligence, researchers. I love this idea of research because it's talent mapping. It's using AI to do some of that research faster at the top of funnel, get better signal, because it's going to make recruiters more efficient. Instead of 20 screens to get 10 to 12 presented to a hiring manager, to 6 or 7 into a full interview loop, we're going to see more precision at the top of funnel, which means recruiters are better at what they're doing. They can have more of an impact. They can work a higher volume of roles. Higher volume of roles is actually net positive for recruiters because they get more at bats.
That's right. Yeah.
How do you think about the recruiters of the future upskilling in this market?
Yeah, I think the recruiters of the future, if they don't upskill and become data is king, queen, and they lead with data, they're going to move on to a different role. Because without the data, without the passion for gathering that intelligence, walking into a business partner, a business leader, hiring manager with, here is the strategy, not just here is, I have your rec, here's the job description, great, let me get going, asking a few questions. It's really coming in and saying, okay, you're going to hire 10 software engineers that are doing front end right now work, but I know you need 4 more in 3 months that are going to be doing the back end testing. So here's what I propose. Here's the data. And if recruiters of the future don't really start embracing that, getting some training, leaning into people that have that knowledge, they're going to be behind because as AI starts to continue to go or continues to roll, the business is going to expect that. Like they want more intelligence, more quantitative information on how to make decisions around workforce planning and just labor in general. And I tell people, before I got into TA, I was a TPM, so a technical product manager. So when I look at TA, if we treated TA like we did if we were going to launch a product, we go in and we collect all this intelligence and this data before you even commit resources to a project. And TA needs to start learning to function more like that because the value will be their strategy is tighter, workforce planning, while it can change all the time, they're going to have a voice in it because they're going to be providing that intelligence.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it's great. I'm excited about this because it's becoming more of a advisor to the business instead of this administrator or process pusher.
Yeah.
There's a phrase that has been perpetuated in recruiting called white glove service
Yeah.
for too long.
Yeah, I've heard it for so long. My gloves are dirty.
I'm good on that. No, and the reason why is because recruiting needs to steer the process for the hiring manager. The hiring manager has a full plate. We can take off a tremendous burden of the hiring process for them, but we need to guide and shape the market, the data we have, the information we have about attrition and post-hire outcomes. We have a lot of objectivity and also insight into other business groups, especially within the same field of the business. So if you're working with one hiring manager for their software engineering unit, there may be 6 or 7 other software engineering units running in parallel. So if recruiting has the data, we need to go back to our hiring manager and have a full holistic view of the information that's being reported around why and how we're going to hire and the number of candidates you're going to see and the backgrounds and the data and what's realistic about if we think we can get this person to an offer acceptance. That's what it takes to be an advisor, not just saying, yeah, I will rinse and repeat submits to you week over week until you are appeased and we have a hire.
Yeah.
This happens a lot in first-time hiring managers as well. I don't know if you have any experience where they blow OpEx because they want to see 20 people because they don't know what they're looking for. Why do we let first-time hiring managers tell recruiting what they're looking for? They don't know what they're looking for.
Yeah. And again, that goes back to just taking the order, being the yes person. And I think recruiters teaching the TA function how to think SMART. So the acronym: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So teach them that SMART methodology, which is solution-based selling. Because as recruiters, we're selling that candidate, but we should also be making sure that as like the new hiring managers, we're guiding them and telling them, here's why you need to look at only these 3 candidates. If they don't fit the mark, then we'll continue looking. But I see a lot of recruiters that have not been taught backbone. They've just been taught, you're the salesperson, take the order, deliver it, and you're done. And so teaching backbone as well, I think really helps position recruiters then to be that expert and be empowered to say, no, Brandon, you're not going to talk to 20 people. Here's your top 3 that I've found based on our conversations. Let's talk to them. If they don't meet the mark, let's recalibrate and see what we need.
And I love the idea of challenging hiring manager behavior in this employer's market. The historical behavior in an employer's market for a hiring manager is, let's see who else is out there. And I love this concept that we are moving towards, where we're going to challenge hiring managers' desire to see additional candidates because we have more precision at the top of the funnel. So it's like, you're going to get 5 candidates. Here's why they're great. Here's why they're aligned. Yes, we know there is an abundance of talent from a supply perspective, but we are not going to give into that, and here's why. I just think it's going to be a challenging point for recruiters to make, but it'll help upskill them.
And I think for the recruiting professionals, some of them, it won't be something they want to do. Some of them have a hard time with backbone, and even if they go through all the training, they're just not comfortable. So I think over the next 5 years, the recruiting profile is going to change a little bit. Like when you think about who we hire for go-to-market sales, the backbone that they have, the tenacity they have when they go into customers and are closing $100 million deals, are using the SMART methodology. They have backbone, they're pushing, they're listening to the needs, but coming back with real solutions that make sense. And I think the recruiter profile will have to, and they're going to have to adapt to some of that, because for us to get better and be seen as the experts, we're going to have that backbone. Amazon teaches it really well. I think Google does a good job, but there's a lot of companies that's not there. And I even have some examples where I've done some fractional work with companies, and I would have the founders and CEOs say, I want some, and this is a real example, I want someone who has been like an Olympic gold medalist, a real Olympic gold medalist. Even if they don't have the skills, they'll have the drive and the grit. So we don't care if they haven't never been a data analyst, but they have some background, but they were Olympic gold medalists. That's who we want to talk to. And I was like, you just said that out loud. Or they'd tell me, we only want people from these companies. If they come from this X company, we think they're lazy. And this X company is like a company of 100,000 people. But suddenly they were like, those people are lazy. And so I had to push hard on these founders. And it was a battle because they were so set in what they thought great talent looked like, that until I started showing them data, because they were very quantitative quant engineers and stuff out of fintech, then they backed off. But without that, I would have went and looked for Olympic gold medalists who now were in finance.
It's interesting. We try to combat bias, and people often think bias is inherently bad, just the way it's been adopted in our world of recruiting and HR. However, bias just exists, and we make assumptions all the time. If we're building a payments platform, let's go hire people from Stripe. That's a bias. But as we think about talent pools, that is also a bias, and that is okay.
Yeah.
One talent pool that comes to mind in particular is like the Disney University program. You ever talk to these people that have like college students that go work at Disney and they're a character or something for a summer? Oh my God, they are like the best people in the world. Not saying you got to go out and be a Disney
But they
dolt,
learn to deal with so much in the moment. Like it's in the moment, dealing with things and learning. I think that kind of goes to even transferable skills. So something at Micron that we rolled out, where especially in the high volume technician space, where a lot of the semiconductor technicians, a lot of them sit overseas. And so it's like, how do we think about talent differently? And okay, there's a mechanic at American Airlines that their skills working on the airplane are very transferable to Micron manufacturing. And so at first it was like conversations that didn't really go anywhere. But then over time, the hiring managers, yeah, you're right. This person does have transferable skills that we can train in a very short period. Their ramp up period is very short because it's transferable. But it was putting it out in the room, being okay dealing with their pushback and still continuing to push on them to at least let's give it a pilot. I love to, when I run into roadblocks with the business, I'm like, okay, I hear you. Let's pilot it. Let's try it for 30 days and see what you think. And they usually are open to that. In Micron today, there's a recruiter that's just being like rock star successful with transferable skills from the military coming into Micron.
Yeah, I love this idea of transferable skills and unlocking new ways of thinking about building talent pipelines. Maybe not everybody is going to be that outside the box type profile, but if you've got 3 or 4 candidates that are exactly what the hiring manager wants, we serve up what they want, and then we inject 2 or 3 that have this potential transferable skill. That's how we create diverse pipelines. That's how we create exponential hires where you have that, where did this person come from moment, the fun part of recruiting. And that's also coming down to giving people an opportunity. Like when you have somebody that comes from outside of an industry and they enter a new industry and they leave their mark, I think those stories are full of the human experience. And to me, that's what makes recruiting fulfilling. How do we tap into these folks and give them great opportunities that are going to be fulfilling, provide them with financial security, health insurance, retirement, motivation, all of that. Like, yeah, you can do these rinse and repeat roles.
They're hungry, they're motivated, and there's nothing more satisfying than to see that person get an offer, be successful, or a hiring manager say, wow, you opened my eyes to thinking differently and trying something different. Because a lot of these companies, especially but some of the like the telecoms, the semiconductor, the defense companies, the tenure in these companies is these leaders have been there 25 plus years. So they've never been anyplace else. And so opening their eyes just to thinking differently than they have in the last 20 plus years is so rewarding as a function, but also it impacts so many lives because suddenly they're like, okay, yeah, I hired this person from American Airlines and this is a true story. This person, she's a rock star. Like she came over, ramped up, and now the whole program really was based on that success. And so many industries can do that. Some can't. Like there's some that the roles are what they are and there's a small pool and the transferable skills aren't that, but there's a lot, whether it's finance, manufacturing, marketing, sales, there's so many things that are transferable that we can build around.
I was just talking to a recruiter friend this week who took on a new role working in a startup in the aerospace industry, and they're hiring some folks. And I was like, hey, these folks have some amazing similar experience from like eSpace. They would be great folks on your team. And that's so fun to be like, hey, here's a little talent pool because there's information that we have about that company and they're interested and here's why. Let's talk about what we came here to talk about, which is the post-hire outcome. When we talk about these folks, I reflect on the strong post-hire outcomes of people I've placed that have unremarkable backgrounds or unexpected backgrounds, and they just come in with a chip on their shoulder with something to prove, and they crush it. I love these stories. I love an underdog.
I do too.
To me, that makes a great quality of hire, somebody who's motivated to do the work. We met because of a post about quality of hire. What the hell is quality of hire?
Yeah, I've been saying that for years. I'm like, and I get it for the high volume space in the first 30 to 60 days of someone's hire. So if you're hiring 200 call center reps every month and they're not sticking in the first 30 days, what can TA do to look at that and make changes? Sometimes it's a TA issue. We're not evaluating the people. We don't have the right assessment tools. Sometimes it's an interviewer issue. They're not even calibrated. And sometimes it's high volume. Like at PayPal, we had to overhire for day one starts by 30% because 30% of the people didn't show up. And that quality of hire isn't on TA just because that's the culture. But I think for me, when the C-suite, especially like CPOs and CHRs really get hung up on quality of hire and they say, okay, quality of hire for TA, this metric, this KPI is 6 months. And I'm like, okay, where I get really heartburn over this is if someone leaves within 90 days to 6 months, it's not a TA problem. It is a business problem. And that's what nobody wants to listen to. And where I really have been pushing this last year is do away with quality of hire and let's look at interviewer quality. Let's have a KPI of what does the interview quality look like? Do we have the right interviewers? Are they calibrated? Are they asking the right questions? Like, how are they helping select the candidate? And then also, what is the hiring manager criteria? We have brand new hiring managers who've never managed people. They have some turnover usually because they don't have the training. You have long-time hiring managers who don't know, who are really upset and having to manage a Gen Z because they don't understand a Gen Z, what makes them thrive. And instead of focusing on, do they stay for 6 months? Let's focus on what happened at the interview and what's happening with the business. Because I gave the example in my last role. I was probably 6 months in at the time when it started really coming up. And I said, if I left right now, it's not on the recruiter. It's going to be on my leader or what's going on here. I use myself as an example. I was like, I wouldn't leave because of what my executive recruiter didn't do.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think at the end of the day, why do we talk about it? It's because someone has to be accountable. It's always easy to blame recruiting or
Yes.
when an employee doesn't work out, it's like, oh, it was just a bad hire. It was a
Yeah,
wrong
you
hire.
made a
It's just
bad hire. Yeah.
Yeah, and hiring managers want to absolve themselves.
Yeah.
We're always the scapegoats anyway. I wear that with a badge of honor, but now we can bring more data to it. But there's so many contributing factors in an employee experience when it comes to retention, productivity, motivation,
Did the job change?
input. Did the job change? Did the founder go off on Twitter? Did the market change from an economic standpoint as well as a competitive landscape? If a competitor came into the market and poached your software engineering team and they grew to $40 million in their first year, that has absolutely nothing to do with the recruiter that hired them 12 to 15 to 18 to 36 months ago. So it really just comes down to what is quality of hire? Why did we get here? We've been talking about it for 10 plus years.
Yeah. We got here because the business and the leadership felt like it's TA's fault if people attrit when they're new in their first 6 months. And it's just, it'd be like saying the Lakers lost the championship because of the cheerleaders. It's like you have to look at the coach, the other players, the plays. You have to look at everything. You can't just look at one component of why you lose someone or you lost. You have to look at the whole picture. And it was just an easy lever to pull and hold recruiting accountable. And man, for the last 10 years, I've scrambled around it. I've scrambled at some companies to really prove like we did everything we should have done for this hire and they still left. But here's the data on their hiring manager was MIA. They had one-on-one in 3 months. Like there's no feeding and caring and nurturing or their job changed. Like those things weren't really talked about 5 years ago. They're being talked about more now, but the accountability goes all the way through the hiring manager and their support teams. What happens in the team? Is it a toxic organization? What's happening?
And you can be a recruiter who is committed to a strong post-hire outcome for your placements and reject quality of hire. Quality of hire came into our vernacular because consultants wanted to sell something. It was a marketing phrase wrapped around a term that is used. Hey, how's the quality of hire? It's just a phrase. No other business group has a top line metric that does not have a universal definition. This is crazy that we've allowed consultants to bring quality of hire into our craft.
Yeah.
It means absolutely nothing. And it's absolutely not a product. It's the name of an analytics dashboard, maybe, but even then it's a trailing indicator.
Yeah,
and
it is.
It doesn't really have a strong foundation. So people say the word quality of hire and it means something to them differently than it means to another person. And we think about hiring managers coming into our org. If the recruiting team talks about quality of hire, but their last company talked about quality of hire and defined it by a different equation, we have just created confusion by asking them to unlearn and relearn something. This is wild. As a cost center in the G&A business group, we are doing the business a disservice by adding friction to the business, all because some external consultant wrote a blog and spoke at a conference about quality of hire and it sounded cute.
Yeah. And it's just become a big giant snowball that have avalanched over the top of all of us. And you see all the arms and legs sticking out of the snowball because we're all in it. I would rather see it because I get it. They're trying to reduce attrition and things like that. But I would rather, let's look at the success of a hire, and you look at every hire for that quarter, every hire for that year. How many people have successfully been promoted, significantly exceeds, how many are meets? For me, that's more important data to tell us if TA and the hiring manager and the interview team are bringing the right people in the door. Because for the ones that are not meets, they're a small percentage actually to the ones that are meets, succeeds, and significantly exceeds. But they never talk about those. They just talk about the ones they lose. But of the percentages, how many are successful? And it's much higher than what you're losing.
Yes. And when it comes to quality of hire, I try to zoom out and say, is this a metric like Net Promoter Score?
NPS.
Is it an operational tool like Agile or Scrum? Or is it more of a philosophy like, say, DevOps?
Yeah.
First, we need to say, what is this thing we are all talking about? And the fact that I've been around in recruiting for a decade and been obsessed with asking this question and the industry hasn't solved it. Why are we going to Las Vegas and doing these conferences 4 or 5 times a year?
Yes.
And why are we talking about things in silos and not unifying as a field so that we can become better? We owe the business a top line metric like Net Promoter Score.
That's right.
So that we can rally around something that makes sense. And right now, quality of hire just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Quality of hire it means nothing if you don't have interviewer quality buttoned up and these interviewers know how to find great talent. They've been through training. They know the questions. We have all the tools for them to be successful. It doesn't mean anything if you don't have good job descriptions and you don't have the jobs calibrated to bring in the right talent in the first place. Because job descriptions sometimes are just a mess and the managers don't even know what they're looking for. And then they bring in someone, this isn't really what I wanted, but that's what we posted. And so quality of hire doesn't mean anything if those things aren't fixed. And for me, the interviewer quality is where we break down. I have seen horrendous interview notes, no interview notes, no really reasons why they selected or don't select someone. The bar raiser, the program and stuff at Amazon, that solves it. They've done such a great job with that, but they're only one company. And until we solve that and get committed to holding interviewers accountable, give them a KPI for quality of hire, it's just going to continue to be that hamster wheel we're on with quality of hire.
100%. I think what we can do to replace it is focus on things that are within our control. And if talent leaders need a top line metric to talk about hiring efficacy, we can talk about things like revenue per employee. That is currently a big brag in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
How many employees do you have? What's your revenue? Oh, we're doing 100 million with 15 employees.
Yeah.
That's a flex. Can play into those sensibilities. But then, what is the quality of slate?
Yes.
There's another micro metric that I really enjoy, and it's talk time ratio. I think if recruiters want to have a strategic seat at the table, it's look at those interview transcriptions and see how much a hiring manager is talking versus a candidate. That's going to deliver some great insights for post-hire outcomes. Because then all of a sudden, if you have high attrition that is regrettable in one business group, you can go back and be like, that business group's hiring team talks 73% of the time in interviews versus a business group who talks 37% of the time, and they have better post-hire outcomes because they're listening.
Yeah. And I think for me, I would love to see companies embrace hiring manager NPS. Skip levels don't happen like they should. The executive suite is very hands-off from what's actually happening in the core of the employees. So implementing a true hiring manager NPS surveys to see, are you meeting with your manager? Do you have one-on-ones? Do you feel developed? Do you feel mentored? Do you feel valued? Because a lot of those things aren't happening. When you see an org, especially that has high attrition, implement a hiring manager NPS. Make sure, or whatever you want to call it, but find a way to measure those leaders that are not leading well. Because there's too many out there that are there 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and no action is ever taken as their people continue to turn over.
It's so true. I've so enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for allowing me to rant on quality of hire, which is something I do free of charge. Anytime, anywhere, any place, I will go off on quality of hire. So thank you for joining me at this table for that discussion. I certainly had a blast. How can people stay in touch with you and what you're up to in this wonderful world of hiring?
Yeah, I post all the time on LinkedIn. So send me a connection, send me a DM. I'm happy to chat. I love mentoring, coaching people as well if they're in their TA journey, whether it's a leader, an IC, how to have that backbone, use a SMART methodology. So LinkedIn is where you can find me, and I'm super responsive.
Amazing. Nona, see you in the Recs.
Brandon, thank you so much.